The film begins by showing a bustling city where an exuberant crowd has gathered to awaken a giant man, who is none other than a monk named Xuanzang, or Monk Zhang, as he's commonly known. Confused by the commotion around him, Monk Zhang is informed by a resident that he has arrived in India, the western region where the scriptures are located. Overjoyed by this news, Monk Zhang realizes that he has finally completed the mission given to him by his teacher. When he revels in his accomplishment, Master Cheng appears to congratulate him and awards him a halo as a symbol of his newfound status as a Buddha. But suddenly, the halo explodes, and Monk Zhang wakes up to find himself in the midst of a circus carnival with his 3 students: Sun Wukong, a monkey demon; Ba Jie, a pig demon; and Wu Jing, a fish demon. The 4 of them are forced to work at the circus to earn money and fund their return to the West. Monk Zhang's health is deteriorating, and their food supplies are running low, causing him to worry about their survival. In an attempt to attract visitors to their show, Monk Zhang summons his students to perform stunts, but their performance fails to entertain the crowd. Instead, it frightens a baby, causing Monk Zhang to be mobbed by angry visitors. Determined to salvage the situation, Monk Zhang frantically asks for another chance and instructs Wukong to perform a monkey mask attraction. Unfortunately, Wukong falls during the act, resulting in the crowd pelting him with vegetables. After their disastrous performance at the circus, the manager angrily drives Monk Zhang and his students away. But Wukong comes up with a plan to redeem themselves by having Wu Jing break his own head and quickly regenerate it, which astounds and amazes the audience. During the show, Ba Jie becomes infatuated with a beautiful girl in the audience and begins to act disrespectfully toward her. In an attempt to stop him, Wukong accidentally breaks a circus train, causing Monk Zhang to intervene and apologize on their behalf. However, Wukong's emotions get the better of him, and he defiantly rejects Monk Zhang's apology. In response, Monk Zhang denounces Wukong as a demon ape, prompting Wukong to attack his own teacher. Fortunately, Monk Zhang manages to distract Wukong with a children's song, causing him to dance uncontrollably. However, the chaos caused by Wukong's rage eventually forces Monk Zhang to bid farewell to the group and continue his journey alone. Meanwhile, 3 demon extermination priests are asked for help by a woman who claims her mother is possessed by a demon. The priests attempt to exorcise the demon, but they are unable to find any abnormalities and conclude that the mother and her 2 daughters are all human. Suddenly, the beautiful woman who invited them reveals herself as a ferocious spider demon and kills the priests. Returning to the place where they last saw the group of monks Zhang, Wukong was surprised to find that Monk Zhang was not punishing him for his previous actions. However, the sight of the whipping reminded Wukong of his punishment from the Buddha on Mount 5 Fingers, and he felt a sense of shame and regret. Monk Zhang expressed his disappointment with his students, whom he found to be wild and difficult to manage. Arrogantly, he proclaimed that if he had set out alone, he would have already obtained the scripture, and he boasted of his mastery of the Buddhist treading skill, which could destroy demons. His students held grudges against him, growing disgusted with his arbitrary behavior and words. The next morning, the group woke up to find that they had run out of water. Monk Zhang set out to find some and eventually came across a luxurious house in the middle of the forest. The door was answered by a group of beautiful women who kindly invited him in and offered him food and drinks. Delighted, Monk Zhang immediately called for his disciples to join him. The women treated them kindly, and Monk Zhang was given a drink that refreshed his body. However, Wukong remained suspicious from the beginning, using his magic eyes to see that the women were actually the incarnation of a spider demon. The demon also knew that Monk Zhang's disciples were demons themselves, setting the stage for a potentially dangerous encounter. In the middle of the conversation, Wukong approached one of the women in their group and asked her to punch him in the face. Before anyone could react, Wu Jing, one of their companions, suddenly came up and hit Wukong hard on the head. Monk Zhang, their teacher, was appalled by their behavior and scolded them both, telling them to leave immediately. Later that night, as they rested in a nearby building, a spider demon emerged and attempted to prey on Monk Zhang. Hearing the commotion, Wukong rushed to his teacher's aid and easily defeated the demon. Unfortunately, Wu Jing was hit by a poison attack during the fight and began to suffocate. Wukong, curious about the source of the building's great power, discovered a spider nest hidden within. He spotted a small spider demon and intended to kill it with one stomp, but Monk Zhang stopped him, saying it was his turn to free the demons from their hatred and evil energy. Monk Zhang began to recite a spell and the little spider suddenly snatched him away and brought him before the demon queen. The queen made Monk Zhang's guts twist in fear and horror as she revealed her dark power. Wukong, ever the impulsive one, went on the offensive once again and managed to grab hold of the spider demon's neck. Despite Monk Zhang's insistence that he be allowed to handle things peacefully with his children's song, Wukong couldn't resist his violent tendencies and struck the demon until it was no more. Later that evening, Wukong and his 2 comrades hatched a plan to murder Monk Zhang due to their frustration with his constant disregard for their behavior. However, Wukong was hesitant due to the fact that their teacher was a skilled practitioner of the Buddhist tread technique. Just as they were discussing their plan, Monk Zhang suddenly appeared behind them, having overheard their conversation. He claimed to have heard nothing and left them to their own devices. Feeling conflicted and alone, Monk Jong retreated to a cliff to meditate and reflect. He confided in the Buddha that he was afraid of the wild nature of his disciples and begged for the power to master the Buddha tread technique, which he realized he had never truly understood. Unfortunately, his conversation was overheard by Bajie, and Monk Jong was forced to approach him and urge him to keep it a secret. To summarize, Wukong and his two companions became frustrated with their teacher, Monk Jong, and planned his murder. However, they were apprehensive because of Monk Jong's mastery of the Buddhist tread technique. As they were discussing their plan, Monk Jong unexpectedly approached them. Wukong was caught off guard, hid his intentions, and pretended to be innocent. Monk Jong then retreated to a cliff to confide in the Buddha about his concerns regarding his unruly disciples and his lack of mastery of the Buddhist footprint move. Unfortunately, his conversation was overheard by Bajie. Later, while Monk Jong was away, Wukong discovered Bajie's betrayal and confronted Monk Jong. Knowing that Monk Jong did not truly possess the Buddhist footprint move, Wukong attacked him with the intention of killing him. However, Monk Jong managed to subdue Wukong with the ultimate song, also known as the children's song. The song caused Wukong's body to dance uncontrollably, but when Monk Jong stopped singing due to exhaustion, Wukong resumed his attack. Monk Jong fled in fear and nearly fell into a deep abyss. As he reached out to beg for forgiveness, a flash of light from the sky appeared before him. Wukong was frightened by the incident and claimed that he was only playing. He then attacked Bajie for giving false information. In the morning, they decided to continue their journey even though Wujing was still back to his original form of being a fish due to being exposed to poison from a fight with a spider demon earlier. After arriving in the Indian kingdom, the travelers were welcomed by Queen Yao Chen with kindness and hospitality. She granted them permission to enter the palace and meet Emperor Bao, whose birthday celebration happened to coincide with their arrival. The festive mood was dampened, however, by Emperor's childish and petulant behavior. Knowing Monk Jong's reputation as a demon eradicator, Emperor Bao demanded that he demonstrate his skills at the celebration. Monk Jong initially refused, insisting that demon eradication was not a mere spectacle. But when he saw the executioner standing by, ready to behead him for his defiance, he agreed to consider the request and asked for some time to consult with his companions. Meanwhile, Wukong had been causing trouble in the palace by playing tricks and creating chaos. Queen Yao Chen, however, had taken a liking to him and tried to persuade him to behave. But Wukong remained defiant and continued to act out, much to the annoyance of the other guests. After some discussion, Wukong suggested that Monk Jong use an impersonation spell, where he would mimic Wukong's movements. Monk Jong agreed and returned to the palace to perform the movements, which were actually controlled by Wukong. However, due to his personal grudge against Monk Jong, Wukong ended up playing a prank on him by performing seductive dance moves and slapping Emperor Bao. This resulted in their expulsion from the palace, but fortunately, they were not executed. Outside the palace, Monk Jong was furious with Wukong for humiliating him in front of the emperor. But Wukong defended himself, saying that he had always been subject to humiliation and that he would rather die than be under Monk Jong's orders forever. He also reminded Monk Jong to treat others the way he wanted to be treated. After hearing all that, Monk Jong began to wake up and regret his actions and apologized to Wukong. They reconciled, and Monk Jong suggested that Wukong returns to the palace to restore his reputation. However, when they arrived, Wukong lost control and attacked Emperor Bao. It was later revealed that Emperor was actually a demon incarnate who could breathe fire. Wukong and Emperor Bao engaged in a fierce battle, with Wukong seemingly having the upper hand. He was able to successfully defend against all of the fire demon's attacks and even strike back. The battle was so intense that they were forced out of the palace and into the open where the fire demons were able to unleash even more destructive power. The fierce battle between Wukong and the fire demon continued. The demon's power grew stronger and stronger, causing Wukong to be repulsed all the way down to the bottom of the palace. Realizing the magnitude of the demon's power, Wukong quickly switched to his stealth mode to evade the demon's attacks. With his magic wand in hand, he was able to repel the demon's fiery attacks and counter them with his fire eye-crushing attack. After a fierce struggle, Wukong and his companions were finally able to freeze the demon with Wujing's jutsu. However, before Wukong could deliver the final blow, Monk Jong appeared and promptly put the demon into his pocket as usual. The chaos was over, and it was revealed that the original Emperor Bao had been held captive in the basement of the palace all this time. Grateful for the services of Monk Jong and his 3 students, Emperor Bao presented them with 3,000 concubines from which Monk Jong could choose. At first, Monk Jong stood firm in his stance to abandon worldly pleasures, but he was eventually tempted by one of the concubines named Jelly Lin, who bore a striking resemblance to his late girlfriend Xiao Jie. The woman's face shook Monk Jong's faith, and her dance performance under the moon was reminiscent of the dance Xiao Jie had once performed. But considering the long journey, Monk Jong firmly refused and immediately said goodbye to continue his mission. In the evening, Monk Jong's entourage had left the kingdom, but he remained behind, gazing intently at Lin's face. Her resemblance to his old girlfriend stirred up emotions within him, causing him to reconsider his decision. The next morning, Monk Zhang returned to the palace and changed his mind, asking Lin to join his entourage. After leaving the kingdom, Monk Zhang and his entourage continued their journey with Lin by their side. However, their close relationship began to raise some eyebrows among their students, who felt left out and excluded. It was not long before they entered a dense forest, where Wukong approached Monk Zhang for a private conversation. To Monk Zhang's surprise, Wukong revealed that Lin was actually a demon in disguise. At first, Monk Zhang was skeptical and refused to believe Wukong's words. Wukong then attempted to prove his theory by using his magic mirror, which was capable of revealing the true form of all demons. However, when Lin looked into the mirror, it did not react in any way. Determined to prove his theory, Wukong then took a sample of Lin's blood for a more in-depth test, but the results remained the same. Unsatisfied with the results, he asked Lin to take him to her family, as he believed that every demon had no family. Together, they arrived at the village where Lin's family and relatives lived. Despite finding nothing suspicious, Wukong remained convinced of his premonition and insisted that Lin's family was also a cabal of demons. But once again, he was unable to prove his words. The tension between Wukong and Monk Zhang had reached its boiling point. After failing to prove that Lin and her family were demons, Wukong's frustration boiled over and he launched a vicious attack on Lin's parents. But Monk Zhang quickly intervened, shielding Lin's parents from harm and condemning Wukong's careless actions. Wukong persisted, insisting that he was only trying to protect his teacher from the threat of stealthy demons that could harm him. But Monk Zhang, consumed by emotion, dredged up painful memories of Wukong's past misdeeds. He reminded Wukong of how he had killed Xiao Jie, the woman whom Monk Zhang had cared for deeply. He also made it clear that he had never wanted to travel with a demon ape and killer like Wukong in the first place. Hearing these accusations, Wukong was deeply hurt and his patience wore thin. He declared that the bond between teacher and student had been irreparably broken. He was no longer willing to live under Monk Zhang's guidance and stormed off in a fit of anger. Monk Zhang was lost in thought, standing at the edge of a cliff, when Lin approached him with curiosity about Xiao Jie. Monk Zhang revealed that Xiao Jie was his old girlfriend who had been killed by Wukong. Lin then confided in Monk Zhang, expressing her desire to marry him and live a happy life together, using the exact same words that Xiao Jie had said before. These words brought back memories of his lost love and strengthened Xiao Jie's image within Monk Zhang's mind. Suddenly, their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Bajie and Wu Jing, who reported that Wukong had returned and was causing chaos in the nearby village. The village was in chaos as Wukong rampaged through it, mercilessly killing anyone in his path. When Monk Zhang finally arrived, it was too late. The village lay in ruins and the Lin family had been slaughtered by Wukong's hand. Wukong, his eyes filled with a cold fury, proclaimed that they were all incarnations of demons and deserved to die. He made it clear that his ultimate goal was to kill Lin, leaving Monk Zhang to try and protect her. Despite Monk Zhang's efforts, Lin was no match for Wukong's strength and was at his mercy. It was then that Lin revealed a shocking truth. She was actually an incarnation of a white skull demon. Using her magic, she transformed the village into a settlement to trick Monk Zhang into thinking that they were just regular people. Lin had once been a human woman deeply in love with a man, but one day, while out on a walk, they had been attacked by robbers who brutally killed her. Consumed by rage and sorrow, Lin's soul was transformed into the demon she was today. Lin tearfully apologized for deceiving Monk Zhang, but before they could reconcile, Wukong transformed into his giant form and swallowed Monk Zhang whole. He then climbed a cliff and encountered Yao Chen and the fire demon. It was then that Yao Chen revealed a shocking revelation that it was all part of his plan. He had told Lin to approach Monk Zhang and break up their relationship, all with the goal of making Wukong his pet. Yao Chen, feeling furious and embarrassed for being deceived, attacked Wukong and Monk Zhang with all her power. The battle was intense and fierce, with Yao Chen unleashing her full potential as a golden feathered bird demon. Wukong was able to dodge most of her attacks, but Monk Zhang was struggling to keep up. As the fight continued, Yao Chen's power began to wane, and Wukong sensed an opportunity. With his quick reflexes, he charged forward and struck Yao Chen with a powerful blow from his staff. Yao Chen fell to the ground, weakened and defeated. With the pinnacle demon vanquished, Wukong and Monk Zhang took a moment to catch their breath. Yao Chen, unwilling to accept defeat, summoned the water Buddha to launch a powerful tsunami wave at Wukong. Despite his massive size, Wukong was able to dodge the attack using his Quintone cloud. However, the water Buddha proved to be incredibly fast and didn't let Wukong escape easily. To make matters worse, Yao Chen summoned the lightning Buddha and the fire Buddha to launch a combined attack, putting Wukong in a difficult position. Wukong's magic wand had fallen to the bottom of the sea with Monk Zhang, leaving him defenseless. Just when all seemed lost, a miracle happened. The hand of the Great Buddha appeared and destroyed the three elemental Buddhas. It was revealed that the appearance of the Great Buddha was a result of Monk Zhang's prayer, as he was meditating at the end of Wukong's magic wand. Shortly after the Great Buddha arrived, a brilliant light shone down from the sky, illuminating the entire area. With an imposing presence, the Great Buddha prepared to punish Yao Chen for all the harm and obstacles he had caused in Monk Zhang's journey. Meanwhile, Lin, who had been fatally wounded by Yao Chen, was now dying in Monk Zhong's arms. Despite the pain and sorrow, Monk Zhong stayed with Lin until her last breath, offering comfort and support until the very end. In the aftermath of the battle, the relationship between Monk Zhong and his companions improved. The brief strife they experienced had ultimately brought them closer together, and they were now more determined than ever to continue their journey to the west to find the sacred scriptures. The moral of the story is that if you're going on a journey to find sacred scriptures, always make sure to bring a magic wand and a meditating monk with you, so you can summon giant Buddhas to defeat your enemies and save your companions in times of need.